I'm James from Mortgage Choice Miami, Burleigh, Palm Beach and Brisbane's Bayside. And we're here in the brand new office of Burleigh Property Sales, and we're here with Joel Boniwell. Hello, Joel.
Hello, James.
How are you?
Oh, wonderful, mate.
Can I say, we've been trying for many years to get Joel on the couch, and finally we have him here today.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we've been on the couch now for a fair bit of time. I think it's about 6 months. So thank you for coming. Thank you for...
Thanks for bugging me enough to do it.
That's all right. Yeah. Well, this is good. So tell us about how you got into this industry. You're the principal now for Burleigh Property Sales here.
Yep.
Tell us the history. Where did it come?
Family. So Scotty's obviously been here for a long period of time. He opened across the road in 1992. Brought me out of school straight into it. Been doing it ever since and loving it.
So Scott Boniwell
My
opened
father,
Burleigh
yep.
Property Sales.
Him and Greg, yep.
In James Street, and that was in 92?
92, yep.
Okay. And then they went from over the road here in James Street. We are number
20. So they were directly opposite, 2 shops down in 92.
corner of Connor and James Street.
Correct.
So you were there for how long?
I was there for 17 years. Scott was there for 18 years. So I finished school and came straight there. Scotty was there for a year before I got there.
So you were there for 17 years?
Yep.
So for 17 years, you basically sold real estate throughout Burleigh.
Correct.
And the Gold Coast.
Yeah, so everywhere throughout the coast, mate. I even had a New South Wales licence briefly for a client that made me get one.
Did you?
Yeah, so I sold one property under the border and came straight back, not doing that again.
Went back there?
No.
Where was it?
It was just in Tweed, so it was in Bamboo, I think it was, or something like that. It was a house down there. It was a painter for our rent roll, and lovely fella, and hustled me to do it, so I did it.
You got it done.
Yeah, but yeah, it's very much a family business. Scott's still here. He's still a principal with me. He's still got the hunger for it, but just not as much to deal with day-to-day basics and wants to do what he wants to do. So it was a bit of a plan to move down here and for me to step up. He owns the premises here, so long-term plan.
So he's a good landlord? Or?
Well, we'll see what happens with the rents.
I think there was a threat of a lockdown, and I think I was talking to Scott and Avril, your property manager, and we were talking about, rent reprieve, and he wasn't very keen.
Yeah, I don't think that applies. I think that was in the fine print. There's no rent reductions at any time.
No. So, all right. So, what was your first car?
An old Lancer. Dad bought that for me in school.
Lancer.
An old Mitsubishi Lancer.
Colour?
White. And very, very old. Very, very average.
Spoilers? Big.
No, it was just a very basic car. I remember.
I can't imagine you in the lights.
Yeah, it was a very basic Lancer. That was right in school. I had it for maybe 10 months or so.
Yeah.
And didn't last too long.
Superb. I can't how long did it last?
Yeah, as I said, it was about 10 months. I remember when we got rid of it, the mechanic said he wasn't too sure what had been happening with the handbrake in it.
Joel was a very good youth.
Yes, very much so.
Very good youth.
Yeah.
The teachers at Marymount College would all agree on
so much so. Oscar's there now, my son's there now, and they welcomed me back with wide arms, mate. That's how good I was.
So, 2 boys?
2 boys, yep. Oscar and Connor. Oscar's started at Marymount. Connor's turning 2 in October.
Most faithful wife on the Gold Coast, Shannon?
Obviously, yeah. No, very good wife.
So where did you meet your wife?
We met through a party years and years and years ago. Pretty much been together since we were 20, 21, something like that. Or since I was 20, 21. She's 3 years younger than me, so.
So Shannon's gone through his whole 20s?
Yeah, Shannon's been a good wife and put up with me. And vice versa, obviously, but very lucky. Very happy.
Congratulations, Shannon. I think you always say that she wakes up very lucky every day.
She doesn't play lotto, my wife. She already won it. she's gonna love that too. I need the end of it.
She'll absolutely love that. So, sporting teams. Do you have like a sport you love?
Yes, I feel this is a stitch up that you're very much aware of.
It's not.
Obviously, I'm a big Dogs fan. I'm pretty sure everyone knows that knows me. On the NRL, so I'll be receiving some wooden spoons this year, no doubt. And Tigers on the AFL. My old boy's a mad Collingwood fan, so.
Yeah, so he sat on the couch and told us about his Collingwood.
Yes, so my brother and my father are both mad Collingwood, and I went against them basically.
Just to argue with them.
Yeah, just to be a pest. But it's been like that the whole time. They're Queensland supporters. Dad's from Tassie. I was born just below the border, so I'm New South Wales. Adam was born in Tassie, and he's a Queensland supporter as well.
So he's always in Origin time. Joel's painful. The biggest thing we find about Joel, though, to be honest, it's always the ref.
Oh, well,
It just is.
I've heard a few stories from blokes that support Tottenham that tell me similar stories.
It's harsh. Anyway, as a Tottenham supporter, we get used to losing. As an England, originally from the UK, we also get used to losing, so it's fine.
Yes.
But if you had a best holiday destination you could go to, we can't go many places at the moment. Where is it, Joel?
I mean, the best place I've been with Shane, we've done a bit of America and around there. We wanted to go to Europe, and my family took me to London and Paris and that when I was a kid. So we wanted to go over to Europe and see Italy and whatnot. But Hawaii's been the best spot for a holiday. Santa Monica was really nice. Yeah. The next one will be something like that with the kids to Disneyland and things like that.
Because you've got to do it when they can still want to do it, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've got 4 yourself and you know what it's like.
Exactly.
And yeah, you want to be able to get on a plane and not lose your mind, but at the same stage, you want to make sure they enjoy it and have something special to remember. And
Joel, as a real estate agent, is the most genuine, non-pushy, he'll tell you as it is. And I think you told me once your dad taught you, I think at the beginning, there's no point in saying lies to people. There's no point in lying to buyers and lying to sellers, because in the end of it, it's going to come back on you, and it's going to give you a poor reputation.
Scott's survived in the area for a long period of time, and besides the period when I was fresh out of school and not wanting to listen to what your father tells you to do in a business, obviously, like most 18-year-olds, but Greg helped train me, who was his business partner for a long period, and then Dad, and the best advice they gave me was basically nothing I can do or say is going to make anyone buy a property. So don't try and push anything like that onto anyone, because they're not going to spend millions of dollars because you tell them to. And then obviously Burleigh's such a small area and everyone knows someone.
Yeah.
You tell lies, you will get burnt. And there's agents that do, and they'll last for a little while, and then in a couple of years they'll crash, or they start to get that reputation.
And they're gone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you've heard some stories too where agents are getting hoses put on them in the lawn and all sorts of stuff. So
they can't go to a certain street.
Yeah. So I mean, those sort of stories, mate. That's Burleigh, and for better or worse, I won't win every single time I go up against people, but the ones I do deal with, they'll deal with me again. Correct. And that's my long-term business. And as I said, Scotty's done it for a long time in Burleigh. To last in Burleigh for 30 odd years as a principal tells you he's done something right.
Correct.
And that's the same thing for him. That's why he's still doing real estate now. People that he deals with just want to deal with him.
Well, and you end up dealing with the kids.
Yeah, the family.
The sisters.
It's just same as your industry, mate, and same as most industries. Is word of mouth, and your name is everything. Like you can't put a price on it. So you burn it, you ruin it. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that's worth doing for that. No. And I mean, that's again, my plan is like what Dad's done with me. Is hopefully my boys want to come down into this at some stage, and that's the dream. And set them up and let them make the work, and
that network just grows. And where we live,
you can't beat it. No. As I said, mate, we've been a fair part around America and whatnot, and there's no place like home, that's for sure.
No, there's not. Like if you were looking at a seller, all right? So a seller's coming to you. What's your biggest couple of tips for a seller that's going to list with you?
I mean, obviously presentation's a big thing. This market's so strong, and obviously everyone's aware of that there's no reason a property's not selling now unless it's overpriced, or there's something there that people aren't comfortable with. But there's a buyer for every property, and it's just working through the selected buyers to find out what they're after and making sure that it ticks the boxes for them. There's no point showing people that have got $500,000 to look at $1 million house. So there's situations like that do arise. But the best advice I can give is get your property prepared, organised, be comfortable with what you're setting out for, and obviously make a move from there for the right market.
It's the presentation of it. You can't have. Is it good to get a pest and building inspection done prior? That's right. So presentation is a key thing. So like what I was saying is it worth doing things like getting a pest and building before they even start selling?
Well, I mean, obviously you can't always, and I always tell buyers as well when they're talking about doing a building and pest, you can't see behind walls. So while I can tell you it looks good, you don't know if there's been something behind there. And a lot of the places these days you find something has happened. We're dealing with majority of them are older homes that have been renovated, unless they've been bulldozed and built. But even new builds have defects. Buyers at the moment aren't so picky with that, purely because they just want to get into Burleigh. And it's not a market to nitpick about something you've got to spend a little bit of money on from Bunnings, or,
If somebody's going, that's a bit old, I want that updated. Well, somebody else is not going to care about it, and they'll buy it.
And I mean, that's generally a good sign, to be honest, anyway, because people obviously start mentioning, oh, that's wrong, this needs work, and they obviously want the property. And owners aren't silly, they're aware of that. And that's again coming back to talking with your owner and giving them some honest advice. There's no point telling someone what's sold for 5 bedrooms with ocean views and you're selling a 2-bedroom unit. So, you got to make sure they're educated on what the market's doing around them. And that's, most owners are. Most people are aware of what their asset's worth.
They can see what the other stuff's selling.
Well, that's right, yeah. You know what your next door neighbour sold for, you know what your friend bought around the corner for, or they've got their eye on it. And most people start to do a little bit of homework. And the odd time where you've got someone that doesn't, it's really not hard to sort of give them a bit of information saying, well, these are your comparable sales. You just make sure that they're aware of what their property's worth.
Are you finding you're getting Sydney buyers? Are you getting Victorian buyers?
There was a really busy period for, the best part of a year where we got a lot of it, and I sold some units literally by FaceTime, no inspections.
What, you just FaceTime around the unit?
Yeah, so I had one in particular, I did that, where it was a person in a state, they just called, FaceTimed. I actually said to them, why don't you send a friend or someone that you trust to come through? Because, it was the best part of $1 million, and same point. No, they were fine, they were happy to buy it as it was, they knew what they were dealing with, and that's their choice. But the last year or so, there is still interstate buyers, and there was a lot from Brisbane, but I feel a lot of the locals at the moment have already sold those properties, and now they've got the money too. Yeah. So you've got a lot of people that have sold their $600,000 unit and buying $1 million home, or vice versa sort of thing, downsizing from their multi-million-dollar home into a unit on the beach or something like that.
Just downsizing, changing.
So you've got a lot of locals that have now got that money, because there was a period where there was so many interstate people bringing the bigger money that wasn't really here as much, to now it's pretty much standard that, X amounts for this knockdown house. Whereas before, it never was.
And there's so many comparables now.
Yeah, well,
and no end.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's been, for a while, we've all sort of seen for the last 6 months or so, every month it felt like it jumped a little bit, It seems to have hit a plateau where you're sort of comfortable with where we're at. There's no signs it's dropped or anything along those lines, but it doesn't seem like it's jumping every month. But at the same stage, you sort of question how high it can get to.
And we're about to hit spring too.
That's right. And then coming into this run now, traditionally, it is a pretty busy period. I mean, obviously there's plenty of things that affect it with COVID and lockdowns and all that sort of stuff too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this spring goes. Because obviously rates are still low. You've still got, there's still a lack of stock, yeah?
Yeah, well, supply and demand. I've been quite fortunate, and it's the same thing that Scotty's done, that, I seem to get a decent amount of people that come to me that I've dealt with, or they know someone that's dealt with me, people that I've associated with in some way in business or relationships in some way. And that seems to continually turn over business, which is good. And that's the key for any real estate agent. If you don't have stock, you won't last. And I mean, that's a pretty simple rule for anything. But yeah, supply and demand is definitely a major part of the market.
What do you, if you're a buyer, and obviously at the moment it's a seller's market, so as a buyer, it's tough.
It is.
Can you give anything to a buyer that's going to help them so they can be the winner?
The hardest thing at the moment for buyers is they need to be a little bit more educated on where they want to be. A lot of them seem to be...
you get
a lot of people that aren't certain where they want to be. They sort of come and they might give you a price for something in Burleigh when they've seen a sale in Palm Beach or Tugun or something like that. And obviously it's a different market. As far as that's probably the most vital thing, is make sure you're aware, and it's not hard for buyers either. There's apps on your phone that you can point to at properties and it tells you what the last sale was. If they're aware of what the market's doing, it gives them the best chance, because they know what the property's really worth. The buyers are the ones that are most educated people in the market, because they're actively looking every day.
So for a buyer, your tip realistically is to do your research.
Yeah, know what you're looking for, speak to your broker obviously, and make sure you're financially equipped. As you said, most people are doing building and pest and those sort of things. You might find someone that's buying a house to bulldoze that's obviously not worried about those sort of things, but having the background lined up, your solicitors, your brokers, your building and pest people, making sure you're ready to go for the right property when it does pop up.
So you're not scrambling at the last minute.
Yeah, when you've got multiple offers and you're not sure, I've got to go speak to my broker or something like that, you're not in a position where an owner's going to go, well, that's a really attractive offer.
No. And it's key that you don't, without trying to push the broker side, you don't want to just be going to one lender, because the differences in rules are so vast. Some will treat Burleigh as high density. So some people will say there's too many units in an area. Others won't. There's vast difference in...
There's all sorts of things too. I mean, obviously on that point, that's your area, but even when you've done my finances, when we purchased as well, as a real estate agent, they shave off so much of my income because it's not guaranteed. So, there's all those sort of things. As a broker that can give you the answer of what you can and can't
One
do.
rules for one and one rules for another. It's different.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you're a seller, you've got to get the presentation right. You've got to make sure the house looks as good as it possibly can be. That doesn't mean redo the entire kitchen and the whole thing.
No.
Make it presentable.
Yeah, so it's a bit of common sense there. Obviously, like you're saying, people go, make it presentable. You might have an original kitchen. It doesn't mean go and renovate the kitchen. It doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to make that money or X amount of money to make it worth doing. Builders are obviously very expensive in the market too. Everything is. They're busy, they're occupied. It's like everything in the industry. So it's, again, being aware of what you've got. If it's something that needs a lick of paint or the carpet touched up or something like that, sure. If you've got an original kitchen or an old original house, there's probably no point because you're spending money on something that's probably going to get bulldozed or completely gutted. And you might do a nice flooring and someone wants timber floors or vice versa.
So here we're in James Street. We're number 20.
Yep.
All right. So Burleigh Property Sales are here. Joel's been here for 17 years. I didn't realise it was that long.
Yeah. I'm a lot older than I look.
He is. We've got similar levels of hair. I just try and hold mine on. But so realistically, what we've got to look at here is Scott's been here for 30.
Yeah, plus. So he started in 1992, mate. He's still going. He's not going anywhere.
No. So Scott still comes in.
He does what he wants to do. He'll deal with his clients. He's still happy to come in here, have his coffee, read the paper, and deal with his clients. That's Scotty's goal.
Yep.
He loves it. He really does. He's passionate about it,
and he still enjoys it. Joel now has taken on the practice. He's running the branch. We're here in James Street. This is their stable home. This is where they're going to be. So if you want to talk about advice, if you want to talk about selling, if you want to look at properties to buy, come and speak to Joel and his team.
Don't forget the rental side. We've got a very good property manager in Avril.
And our next on the couch is with Avril Buckingham, who is the longest established property manager in Burleigh Heads.
Yeah, she's been with Dad for longer than I have. She's been here, I think, 24 years, she'll tell you. I think it is.
A long time. I thought it was 30 odd.
Oh, she's been doing property management for longer than that, but she's been with Dad in the business of Burleigh Property Sales for, I think, 24 years. She'll confirm that. And yeah, she's obviously the gun at property management. So I'll leave that with her.
We'll leave that with her. Good.
Yep.
Thank you, Joel.
Thanks, James.
For doing it.
No worries.